Without their captain, without their talisman, without the single player every American soccer fan calls irreplaceable, Christian Pulisic, sidelined on the bench nursing a calf injury, the United States marched out at Lumen Field in Seattle and did something dominant. They dismantled Australia 2-0 in front of 68,000 roaring fans, and with it clinched their spot in the knockout rounds of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. No star needed, no excuses. The USMNT means business, and the rest of this tournament just got a warning. Welcome to SoccerVault. The breakdown starts right now. Stay until the end because I've got a hot take about those 7 yellow cards that nobody in the US media wants to talk about. Let's set the scene. Group D coming in was the most competitive group in the tournament. USA had hammered Paraguay 4-1 in their opener. Clinical, authoritative, exactly what you'd expect from the hosts playing on home soil. Australia, meanwhile, had pulled off the genuine shock of the group by stunning Turkey 2-0, so this was a first-place versus first-place clash. Both sides on 3 points, both full of confidence and momentum, both absolutely desperate for that second win that would guarantee a round of 16 berth. And then came the bombshell. Confirmed hours before kickoff, Christian Pulisic would not start, not even named in the 11. Hurt calf. The man who has essentially carried this USMNT forward for the past 6 years, the one player who gives the American attack its cutting edge, its unpredictability, its moments of individual brilliance, ruled out. You could feel the anxiety rippling through the crowd before the game had even begun. 68,000 fans streaming into Lumen Field and the whisper going through the stands, can we cope without him? The answer, emphatically, thrillingly, was yes. And it took just 11 minutes to prove it. A ball was swung into the Australia box, the pressing was immediate and relentless, and Cameron Burgess, one of Australia's most experienced and composed centre-backs, couldn't handle it. Under intense pressure from an American striker right in his ear, Burgess turned the ball into his own net. 1-0. Lumen Field erupted. 68,000 people going completely and utterly insane. It was electric in a way I don't think any World Cup ground has matched so far in 2026. Here's what made that opener so devastating for Australia. It wasn't just that they conceded in the 11th minute, it was how they conceded, and Burgess doesn't normally panic. He's a measured, technically sound defender. But the USA's high press forced exactly the kind of rushed, hurried decision-making that Pochettino had been drilling into his team all week. That own goal wasn't misfortune or bad luck. It was tactical precision from the United States. The press suffocated Australia's build-up from the very first moment, and the goal was the direct consequence. This was system football working to perfection. And then came the second, 43 minutes in. Alex Freeman, only in the starting lineup because Pulisic was unavailable, met a cross at the back post and powered a header goalward. The ball hit the net. The stadium erupted again. But then, the VAR review. That agonizing, interminable delay. The kind of silence that makes your stomach drop and your heart pound. 40 seconds, a minute, fans staring at the big screen, Pulisic watching from the bench, arms folded, another 30 seconds, and finally, goal confirmed, 2-0, 43 minutes, game over. Think about what Freeman's goal represents beyond the scoreline. He is a player who, 24 hours earlier, nobody was certain would even start, stepping in for the biggest name in American soccer at a World Cup, on home soil, in front of 68,000 of his own supporters. And he delivered not a tap-in, not a gift, not a lucky deflection. A composed, precise header under pressure, followed by a VAR review that stretched over a minute. That kind of mental strength from a player thrust into the spotlight without warning tells you everything about the character and depth of this USMNT squad. Beyond the goals, what impressed me most was the tactical intelligence of this entire American performance. With Pulisic absent, Pochettino switched to a 4-2-3-1 dynasty, 2 holding midfielders to absorb Australia's counter-attacks, and 3 creative players rotating behind the striker. It created chaos. Australia simply could not identify who their direct opponent was in the final third, and by the time they worked it out, the USA had already moved the ball on. The pressing triggers were exceptional, coordinated, timed, purposeful. This wasn't individuals pressing, it was a team pressing in unison, with specific cues and specific triggers for each press action. Individually, the defensive line deserves enormous credit. Not a single moment of genuine panic across 90 minutes despite Australia's best efforts in the second half. And Freeman, yes, he scored, but his movement throughout was intelligent, his pressing was relentless, and his hold-up play gave the team a focal point that was critically important without Pulisic's dribbling threat. This was the kind of performance where a team proves it is greater than the sum of its parts. And on a night where the biggest star sat on the bench, the collective was magnificent. Now here is the hot take, because this win was not perfect, and I think we need to say it. 7 yellow cards. 7. In a match where Australia created barely anything going forward. That number is reckless. 3 of those yellows went to midfielders, the very engine room that this team depends on for its pressing intensity and ball recovery. In the knockout rounds, 1 or 2 key suspensions in that area of the pitch could fundamentally change the identity of this team. The press breaks down without the right personnel. The transition game suffers. Suddenly you're asking different players to do different jobs in a round of 16 match. I know what you're going to say. Those group stage cards expire at the end of the group stage. It doesn't matter. And yes, technically, you are right. The slate is wiped clean. But here is why the yellow card count matters anyway. It reveals a pattern of reckless pressing under pressure. When teams begin pressing with intensity but lose their discipline mid-press, they leave themselves vulnerable to being bypassed quickly. Against better sides, France, Germany, Argentina, that vulnerability gets exposed brutally. The discipline question is the one thing Pochettino cannot ignore between now and the round of 16. Let's talk Group D consequences and what comes next. After this result, USA lead. Group D, on 6 points from 2 games, already mathematically guaranteed a place in the knockout rounds. Australia sits second on 3 points, still in a strong position heading into their final group game. Meanwhile, tonight, Turkey and Paraguay clash in a match that is absolutely must-win for both sides. The loser is effectively eliminated. The winner stays alive, potentially qualifying as one of the best third-place teams. Watch that game closely. It could decide who the USA face in the round of 16, and seeding matters enormously. And here is what excites me about the USA's prospects. Pulisic is expected to be back. The medical reports coming out of the camp suggest the calf injury is minor, and he should be fit in time for the knockout rounds. Imagine this team, which just won 2-0 without him, with Pulisic back on that left side, cutting in, creating, threatening. You're looking at a side with the depth, the tactical flexibility, and now the psychological belief that they can beat anyone on their day. France, England, Brazil. Do not sleep on this USMNT. That is the situation. The United States are marching into the World Cup knockout rounds. 68,000 people roared them home, and the question is no longer whether the USMNT can compete at this tournament. The question is how far they can go, and I'll be honest, I think the answer is further than most expected. Comment below. What's your prediction for this American side? Do they make the semi-finals? The final? Drop your hot take right now. I want every prediction in those comments. If you're new to SoccerVault, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell. We are dropping 3 breakdowns a day, every single day of this World Cup. Don't miss a moment. See you on the next one.